Hi, my name is Kevin and I collect old irons. I thought the previous video we did on patents would be something that would be only of interest to the specialists, but I was wrong. It turned out that that video was surprisingly popular. So let's further explore the topic. Americans are famous worldwide for their productivity and for their innovation. And in some sense that is best illustrated by the wide variety and number of American patents. From 1836 to the turn of the century, which would be January 1st, 1901, Americans had 664,827 utility patents, 33,813 design patents, and 11,879 reissued patents. That's a lot of patents. And if you are going to try to find patents for things like old irons, it's very much like searching for a needle in a haystack. So, where to start? What really helps is to have the patent number and this web page, patents.google.com. Let us quickly search for 3 patents that we've either seen before or we will shortly see again. You may start, if you want to get on this web page, you can follow along, by entering the utility patent number US 113448. The US means United States Utility Patent. If you do not enter the US, you might get another patent of that number but from another country. What we get here is the Mrs. Potts 1871 patent for her famous detachable handle design. Let's type in another number, US RE 8925. The US RE means reissued, and what we get here is the Potts patent reissued to Enterprise in 1879. Now, I'm not going to say anything more about these patents here, as I intend to do a Mary Florence Potts video before too long. The only reason I'm showing you these is to show you the process of searching for patents. And while we're on that, let's do a design patent, USD for US design, the number being 42344. And that gets us the Ober flat iron handle that we saw in an earlier video. What I'm going to do in the rest of this video and in subsequent videos is where I have the patent number, I'll flash up that number so that you can, if you're so inclined, take that number, put it into the web page, and look at the patent directly to learn more. But here's the rub. To find a patent via this website, you have to have the patent number. And the patent numbers are very hard to get. In part, that's because the patent numbers are actually not on the irons. The irons might have the patentee's name. Alternatively, they might have the manufacturer or a patent date. The patent date may not be correct, or it may be the date that the patent was applied for. And there are lots of times when you see the word patented or patent applied for, and that might just be hopeful thinking. To get patent numbers, you can go into the patents themselves and go leafing through them. That is an extraordinarily big task. There are hundreds of thousands of these patents, and these patents are not cross-referenced. But we have 3 people who have done a lot of this detective work over a long period of time, and their work we can easily draw upon. To begin with, we have Dennis McDonald, and Dennis McDonald has been searching the ephemera of patents associated with irons, also the advertisements, the articles in trade magazines, and so forth. And he writes about this very regularly in Pressing News. He's also very easy person to contact, and he's been very generous, certainly, of his time to me. Secondly, we have David Irons. David Irons did this modest little book, pictorial presentation of patent briefs from 1876 to 1912, pages upon pages of patents, not much additional information, but the number is included. So with that, you can flash up and learn more. And we also have Mark Durham's voluminous work on patents for fluter irons. So we have these to draw upon. And by the way, those resources, Pressing News and the books that I've shown here, are all available from the PICA loaning library. So you can merely contact them as a member. They will send you these and you can make your own photocopies. What patents provide is the historical context for these irons that is oftentimes otherwise not available. We can get information on the dates when these things were initially patented, what was actually the innovation of these patents, and then we can trace the subsequent history of that particular company, get an idea of how long these irons are being manufactured, and some of the other companies that followed on with innovations on that original idea. This is of enormous value if you're seriously interested in the irons. What we're going to do here is I'm going to pick up 5 iron history threads, and we will see what we can learn about the irons in these threads by looking at the patents. Let us first look at one of the favorite irons of mine in my collection. This is the Rotary Smoothing Iron Company iron made in Boston, Massachusetts. Rotary, of course, because it rotates. And on the other side we can see a March 21, 1854 patent date. This iron is not inordinately rare. I have 2 of them, though in both cases I don't have the original tank. This is a reproduction here. The iron style has a long history. This is probably the first of the rotary irons, at least in American use. This iron was patented by Jeremiah Brown of Hartford, Connecticut, and assigned to Samuel Folsom of Charleston, Massachusetts. I assume that Folsom was associated with the Rotary Smoothing Iron Company in Boston. It is important, if you're going to understand the history of these irons, to read carefully the claim, because that is the most important feature of the patent. And the claim for this iron reads, "The revolving smoothing iron is heated by means of a spirit or gas lamp internally, or so its equivalent." This was the first rotary iron, at least in American use, but there were a number of subsequent patents, patent holders, and manufacturers over the next 50 years or more. And so let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these early subsequent rotary iron patents. For example, S.M. Johnson of Lockport, New York, patented on December 11th, 1867, a device with this claim: the combination with a reversible sat iron of a hollow handle forming a reservoir. The illustration associated with that, a very attractive handle. And here is the patent model associated with this device, now at the Hagley Museum of Wilmington, Delaware. The specimen in the Hagley Museum does not have the correct tag. There was a subsequent patent from 1868 which had some refinements of this design, and these suggest to me that the iron was likely produced, although I know of no specimens besides the patent model. If you happen to have one of these, please let me know. I'd like to see some photos. I can maybe make an offer. An iron like this in good condition would be worth several $1,000s. Subsequent to that, in 1875, Ellison and Askew patented a rotary iron. Again, no longer patenting the rotation of the iron itself. This particular iron, and I'm not going to read the claim here because it has too much wordage to be easily able to assimilate here, but what the patent is for the attachment of the tank in the back. This tank, to use a term that I used to know very well in my early days with working with single lens reflex cameras is called a bayonet mount. So you put the thing in, you rotate, and there you'd be. And that was the innovation patented by Ellison and Askew. Let's follow a second line of study. In a couple of previous videos, we've met this particular small gas jet, the gas jet being a travel iron that was placed on top of a natural gas light attachment. This was patented by Lewis Wilkinson in 1871, Lewis Wilkinson being out of New York City. The claim for this iron is very brief. As an article of manufacture, the small, light, hollow smoothing iron, constructed as shown and described, and adapted to be sustained while being heated by the bracket of an ordinary gas burner, all substantially as herein set forth. That is the entire claim on the patent. This was licensed to Chalfont Manufacturing Company of Philadelphia, the Orcut Manufacturing Company of New York City, and probably some other companies as well. There is quite a wide diversity of these irons, oftentimes without much in the way of markings. But then there are a number of patents and companies coming in after 1888. 1888 being 17 years after the inception of the Wilkinson patent, after the Wilkinson patent has elapsed. Let's follow one of these lineages. In 1893, Herbert Clayton provided this patent, and the initial claim reads, "A sat iron having a combination chamber, the lower portion thereof forming an ironing surface, the upper wall having an interior cavity and a non-combustible absorbent material within the cavity, and the upper and side walls having air openings substantially as specified." This is the first of 5 claims, all of them very much the same wordage with some minor insertion or addition or change in there, trying to cover every eventuality. That patent also illustrates this interesting stand, of which I've never seen, but presumably this is out there somewhere. Clayton then followed this up with a 1900 patent, and a claim here reads, "A sat iron comprising a hollow body having openings, a burner opening in the upper face thereof, a burner having an opening, a pipe within the opening and longitudinally movable therein, the iron handle having an opening registering in the outer end of the pipe, whereby a gas burner registers with the outer end of the pipe substantially as described." This is one of 7 variant claims. And I have an iron from this lineage. This iron marked on the top as patented July 4th, 1893, so using the first patent, but has the hole in the handle so that it can be presented upside down as illustrated in the second patent. Presumably this iron is manufactured before the second patent is actually published, otherwise it would use that patent, I think, on the iron as well. In an earlier video we talked about the combination fluters, and in that process we talked about Frederick Myers. Frederick Myers had all kinds of innovative devices, especially various kinds of sat irons, and they were all very stylistic. All of his irons are very sought after, but by far the most sought after of the Myers irons is the goat fluter. The goat fluter, also sometimes called the fashion fluter, consists of 2 rollers, and the bottom roller is inset into what is essentially the base of a flat iron. And so this is a flat iron machine fluter combination, which is unique. And the top roller could be turned by turning the handle like this. So A very interesting iron, very sought after, in good condition. One of these things would go for well more than $1,000. But let's take a look at the patents associated with this. There are two patents, an 1871 and an 1872 patent. The 1871 patent is essentially for that bottom roller that is nestled in the bottom of the flat iron, using the flat iron as the heat source. The 1872 patent claims, I claim the arrangement of the fluter roller supports A and B to allow the rollers to be separated for reception of the goods and closed after the goods are introduced between the rollers for fluting by a hinge. So the first patent is again for the two stacked rollers, the bottom one being nestled into the flat iron, and the second patent being a little device here that allows you to open this up. The second patent clearly illustrates the goat fluter with the goat at the front of the fluter here, but there's no mention of the goat at all, nor is there any design patent that features a goat that we know of. We have previously seen the Bless and Drake coal iron with the large chimney. The irons generally read Bless and Drake on the top, but this is a bit unusual in that this one has on the top the original patentees for this design, who are W.D. Cummings and N. Taliaferro, both from Kentucky. And what they did in 1852 is they patented an iron whose claim reads, a tube or chamber at the bottom of the firebox, provided with a registered mouth or inlet some distance above the bottom, and at its lower portion distributing apertures communicating with the fire, whereby the draft is applied from beneath and every part. So what's being patented here? Something that I had never paid any attention to previously, and now let me get this pin pulled out. Sorry about that. And inside there is a raised piece that goes to the back vent here and is actually raised above the bottom, which draws air in and ultimately up through the chimney. And this apparently is a very efficient device. These irons were made by Bless and Drake and by a host of other people who copied these designs after the original patents expired, and these were made a fair distance into the 20th century. Now, the device here was picked up by the British irons, whether they originally came out with that patent copied by Taliaferro and Cummings, or the reverse, I'm not sure. But the German irons that I looked at did not have this device. From here, let's take a look at another iron of very similar designs. This is the Peace iron, very much like the Taliaferro and Cummings Bless and Drake irons. There are patents here for 1882, 1887, and 1904. And what those patents are for is for the side plate and the fluter handle, and these various patents for subtle changes in those designs. One of my favorite designer marketers of old irons was a man named Nelson Streeter. Nelson Streeter had a sequence of irons patented in the 1870s, 1880s, and into the 1890s. These include the Sensible line, which were detachable handle irons, and the Magic line, which included an eternal slug. And let me just show you this one. This one has a fluting iron bottom for a top, and the handle comes off. And I can pull out another one here. This is a slightly later version. These were presented in a series of different varieties annually with patents to match. This one, let's get this one out here. Here she be. And it reads Magic on the top. There is a slug within. And on this one, I can put a plate on the top here as well. The claim for this 1878 patent reads, a flat fluter having a recess in its underside to fit down over the top of an iron or core, and provided with a handle or catch at one end, adapted to engage with the handle that has projection at one end and catching in the middle of the fluter substantially as set forth. So what this allowed for was, if I'll take this one here, I can insert this to create a plate to use on this one. Or there were other devices here. Here's another kind of device here. Here is the fluter roller, inserts here, and I can use that here. And there were many variations on this. These devices were supplemented by a later 1878 patent. The claim reads, the iron stand having a flange around its outer edge and a recess in its center to form a hot air chamber for the iron and a recess for the core, substantially as set forth. And what that claim relates to is another substantive piece of these Streeter components, and that is a associated stand. Let me demonstrate this as I might. I'll take the fluter plate off. We can now put this aside, and I will replace that with a stand here marked Magic, and a fluter plate that I can insert on that. The stand here has an area that's recessed, unlike any other kind of old iron stand that you might see, to house the slug and insulate it, keep it warm for a longer time. I can put the plate on top of this, and now I have another hand fluter. And these various components could be bought individually or combined in various kinds of package deals over the course of years. So what we have done again in this video is to dig a little bit deeper into the patents, see how you might search for them, get some sense on how you read them, get some sense on how you might interpret a series of patents to build a larger story. And we might investigate aspects of this in later videos. So I thank you again. We will be looking forward to videos on others of the important iron designers, manufacturers, including Streeter, and we need to talk pretty soon about Mary Potts. Thank you.